chances on that.
So you brought me
I brought you a cup, yeah.
But someone was on your show last week, and his response was, he who casts, he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone. He is now endorsing those ads, but I have never molested anyone, any underage girl, or falsified documents. We have all done things in the past that we would not do now. Would Bush invade Iraq at this time?
Probably not.
Probably not. So that it is one of those things. In fact, what is interesting about the ad is that my opponent has found his way in there to say that he told me not to say this. I can only hope that he is not adopting some of the unsavory traits of his mentor, because that is as far from the truth as...
But I take it you would regret that, it's a long time ago, and I take it you would regret that episode, no?
Well, I mean, it's something that happened in the heat of battle, and the way in which it happened, it was a spontaneous kind of response to something that was said.
What is the history of this glass? There was as I recall, there was a history to this glass thing.
Well, the history stemmed from
something in the house,
something that happened in the
boundaries,
in the Boundaries Commission,
yeah,
and something dealing with that, and of course that was a pretty extraordinary period in my life, and this sort of thing happened.
You know, it's very interesting. I wish it were possible to do a kind of survey and find out what percentage of St. Lucia even understands the ad. Some of us do, of course. What percentage understands the ad? But I remember saying to George Adlam and Peter Josie at one point that they really ought to have come on television more, because some of the things that George and Josie did in the early wars with the Compton government.
Yes.
Looking back on them, or people who are now analyzing would say, it was terrible, they did this and that. But
it doesn't seem so at the time.
But it took that. Yeah. Also, it took that to dislodge Compton.
Yeah. It was not an easy fight, and there were things that you did. I mean, the demonstrations, the this, the that, the other. I mean, a lot of things.
I mean, there's also Martin Luther King. You could call Martin Luther King a rabble-rouser.
Yeah.
You know,
Malcolm X.
Yeah. You could call Malcolm X a rabble-rouser. You could call Mahatma Gandhi a rabble-rouser. I guess times change, and I've studied that particular tape and the thing, and I wondered how you deal with that.
But look at some of the Black Panthers who have survived, like Black Angela Davis. What is she doing now?
That's right.
It's a completely different era. So yes, you did a lot.
But you didn't actually punch Compton, did you?
No, never really got to that.
Did you get close?
May have thought about it.
Yeah. Can you see you paying 14 years later for a contretemps that occurred at election time in '92? Can you see you paying the price for that now?
Not really, but I think when you're in opposition, you reserve the right to use whatever you think is going to be advantageous to you, and so they're using it. I don't see it being particularly useful in hurting me in my constituency.
I have a little line, you know, and I say, without Saul, there would be no Paul. But then again, Paul did repent, I guess. Yeah. He changed, etc. And I doubt there's a single politician. Well, I hope not that politicians will say, "I regret this," or "It happened then," etc., etc., etc. I never got George or Josie to come on this show to explain some of the things that happened in '79 and thereabouts, to give young people some idea of the war the political war that went into shaping things. Of course, there were fallouts, because some people say the Labour Party is responsible for the indiscipline we're now going through. But that's for another show, and for you guys to answer that, not for me to answer. There's also the problem, the attacks now on your extravagance as ambassador.
Well, I really don't understand that. People talk about lavish, but I don't know probably.
Well, you've seen
I've seen it, and I just see it as part of the propaganda. I mean, people talk about what they call lavish lifestyle. The only time I know that I'm sure that I'll have a lavish lifestyle is when I get to heaven. I don't know anything. I'm heading straight there.
Okay.
Can you imagine having a lavish lifestyle, Julian Hunt having a lavish lifestyle in New York? You know, I couldn't afford it. The government couldn't afford it.
Okay, let me get to that. There's some figures quoted about your rent and all that kind of stuff. Who determines those things? Who determines where an ambassador lives ultimately?
The government. So that I heard talk about where people, let's take the